All right, guys. I think we can go ahead and get started. Just to some logistics. Everybody's going to be on mute during the webinar, but if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to put those through the chat section, through the GoToMeeting webinar panel, and I will be happy to answer those questions towards the end of the presentation. So what I'm here to talk to you today about is how smarter time and expense tracking will rock your Microsoft world. Again, my name is Brian Maxon, and I am the Director of Sales here at Journyx. So in general, most of you guys probably understand this, but when we're talking about why do people need to track time and expense data, really, it's either one or a combination of these 5 different categories. Probably the most common reason is for people to be able to measure their cost on projects. So whether they're trying to understand what their costs are, be able to compare their cost towards budgets on their projects, or to be able to do some sort of profitability analysis. Project cost accounting is obviously very important to the success of the organization. Probably as equally important is this second reason, and that's to be able to accurately invoice your customers for the hours on the projects that people work on, and I guess in a timely fashion, accurately and on time. The third is just about every organization out there that's collecting time is also using that information to be able to pay their employees. So the more accurate we can make that time, the more timely fashion that can be entered into the system. Time and expense tracking is critical for processing your payroll. Maybe to a less extent is to do resource management. So if you've got a big resource group there, or you work on a lot of projects, sometimes it's really important to understand what your resource optimization looks like, making sure you've got enough people to work on your projects coming down the pipeline, make sure you've got the right people to work on those projects, or do I need to go outsource that to some contractors and some outside sources? And the fifth reason is really more around compliance, right? So as an example, if you're a government contractor client and need to do defense DCAA compliance, there's some tracking of data around things like GDPR compliance and things like that. So, and especially in today's day and age where security and compliance is such a big deal, time and expense tracking can really play a big part in that as well. So, that we understand, I think all, that tracking this data is critical for our success and for the growth of the company. However, it's really time to start working smarter and not harder. So what do we mean by that? Smarter time and expense tracking, what does that actually mean? So in this presentation, what we mean by smarter time and expense tracking is utilizing all the Microsoft tools and services that you guys already use on a daily basis to make your time and expense tracking processes easier, accurate, and on time. So you can see by the diagram here what I'm talking about for your Microsoft tools that you use on a daily basis are your email, all right, Microsoft Exchange, your Microsoft Dynamics solution, so your ERP solution. For those that are heavily project-oriented, you may have a project group or PMO group that likes to use Microsoft Project for their project scheduling. Microsoft Excel, everybody that uses Microsoft Excel in some form for reporting and doing analytics. For those people that use Azure, talking about doing things like single sign-on and LDAP authentication with Active Directory, and then also just being able to do mobile entry as an additional way for making your time and expense processes easier, accurate, and on time. So that's what we mean by smarter time tracking, is getting a time and expense tracking process that aligns with all of the tools that you're already using from Microsoft on a daily basis. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. That first bullet was your email, right? Microsoft Exchange, your calendars, your tasks. And that's really around, the way Journyx comes into play with that is around AI with machine learning. So earlier this year, we actually did a survey from, with the folks over MS Dynamics World, and the topic was around trends in smart technology and time tracking. And so some of the things that we actually learned was that of all the people that responded, and we had 186 people that responded that were Microsoft-centric type organizations. And out of those 186 companies, 83% of them needed to track time on projects, which would make sense. Of those 83%, 85% of them said that AI or machine learning would be useful. And when we talk about doing that, what that means is being able to use AI and machine learning to be able to pull in information from Exchange to make the time entry process as simple as possible for your end users. The apps that were most frequently used around this AI machine learning concept were, of course, Microsoft Exchange, the calendars and tasks that people have on their Exchange, Microsoft Project, and then also from the development world, Jira. And what we've learned is amongst all of those people, to the point of doing smarter time tracking, 75% of the time of these respondents was spent in these apps all throughout the day. So what a better way to be smarter about your time and expense tracking than to leverage the applications you're using 75% of the time. So to dig into that a little bit further, still around the whole Exchange concept and Journyx AI and machine learning. I mean, let's face it, nobody really likes to track time and expense data. So the easier the user experience, the more accurate the data is going to be, the more timely that data is going to get completed and sent through your backend office processing. So what Journyx means by using AI and machine learning is Journyx has the ability to pull in your Exchange calendar entries and tasks as what we call suggested time entries. And you can see out to the right a little diagram of what that looks like on actually a Journyx time entry screen. Basically what that allows you to do is the calendar events I already have in place, the tasks I'm already doing, it pulls those in as suggested time entries so that I don't have to go in and manually enter those entries on my timesheet, which again improves the user experience. Once those calendar events and tasks are pulled in as suggested entries, we then are able to use what we call machine learning to use pattern recognition to optimize those suggestions over time. So what that means is, if I had certain items on my calendar or my task list that are pretty repetitive, when they first come in the first time, I need to associate that to the appropriate projects that I'm working on. But as I continue to use those suggested entries, the pattern recognition and machine learning starts getting smarter and smarter, and it starts recognizing that this type of activity should be associated to this project, thereby further enhancing the user experience when they're entering in time. So, the resulting experience at the end of using this AI and machine learning with these suggested entries is that really all the end user has to do is go in and fill out their timesheet by exception, or just fill in the blanks. So if I come in to enter my time, and 80% of my timesheet is already complete with the work that I've already done, and I only have to fill in 20% of my time to complete my timesheet, I guarantee you that your employees are going to enter their time more accurately, and it's going to be more on time. So you don't have to go chase down late timesheets, and you can greatly reduce the amount of broken data that you have to fix on the timesheet. So this is probably the thing we're most excited about is this concept of AI and machine learning to really improve the user experience for something that nobody really likes to do. And that's why we're most excited about it. The other concept that comes into play when improving the user experience for time entry is around mobile, right? So the challenge there is, maybe I'm a type of an organization that has a mobile workforce, and or, employees have their phone on them, almost 24 hours a day, right? So what a better way to be able to complete a task like time and expense entry than with a device I've got in my hand all the time. So Journyx has a real nice mobile experience, allows me to access my timesheet and expense sheet anywhere, anytime, and that applies both for iPhones and for Androids. Managers also have the ability to approve the time that's been and expense data that's been tracked through the mobile app. And then for the folks that are like really out there in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell coverage, Journyx also does give you the ability to work both in an online and offline mode with a mobile app. So you can enter your time and expense data on a plane when you're coming back from a business trip. Next time you've got access to cell coverage, it'll sync that back up with the application. So between the Exchange, AI, machine learning, and the mobile entry options, the user experience for entering your time, again, is easy and in the end, just a smarter way of doing so. That second bullet from the original agenda, integrating with your dynamic solution. So, it's really important. You guys are all in some form or fashion either using or have customers as partners that are working with a Dynamics ERP solution, whether that be GP, NAV, AX, or one of the versions of Dynamics 365. Being able to get the time and expense data into that system is critical. Some of the native options for tracking that type of data in the dynamic solutions, you guys all know is, maybe, subpar. So having a good solution like Journyx to be able to track your time and expense data, but also have a bi-directional integration with your ERP solution is what really adds value. So we are basically able to pull in what we call business data from Dynamics into Journyx. So I'll use GP as an example. If I was using the project accounting module and needed to pull in all of my projects, my cost categories, my pay codes, bill codes, all of my employees, any of the approval workflows that you may have set up, as well as any related attributes of those data objects. Through our account link tool, Journyx is able to pull in all of that business data into Journyx so that you don't have dual entry into multiple systems every time you're updating projects, cost categories, and people. So people track their time and expense data against those business objects in Journyx. That goes through a flexible, multi-layered approval workflow process. And then we're able to send those approved time and expense records back from Journyx into your Dynamics solution. And depending on how you're using Dynamics, whether it be for project cost accounting, payroll, there is a lot of flexibility on how we send that data back out, whether it be as a batch, as GL transactions, as payroll transactions. Again, a lot of flexibility there, depending on what the business need is and how you guys are using your dynamic solution. But again, providing the organization with a very simple, user-friendly time and expense tracking solution is one thing, but making sure that that is integrated completely with your Dynamics ERP solution is what really adds value on top of that solution. The third bullet is around Microsoft projects. So as I mentioned, especially for some of you, your project-oriented organizations, you may have a project or PMO group that manages their projects in Microsoft Project. And so that by their creating their projects, their project schedules that have a WBS with projects and tasks, they've got their resources, doing their resource assignments in Microsoft Project, and they're almost managing all of those projects and all their actual work in a silo in Microsoft Project, while your finance team is managing all of those projects and hours and expenses and costs in your ERP solution. And so the biggest challenge is that the information that's being managed by the PMO group for project time doesn't really match up, at least in a timely fashion, with the data that's being managed from the finance department. So the data gets way out of sync. So what Journyx offers is a unique solution that helps combine the projects and data from your PMO group with the projects and data from your finance and dynamics group. And we do that through a Journyx tool that we call Project Link. And essentially what it allows you to do is it allows your PMO group to create and manage their project schedules, resources, resource assignments in Microsoft Project and pull all of that data into Journyx. People can then track their time against those projects and tasks in Journyx. When that data gets approved, we're able then through Project Link to send that approved time back in as actual work into your Microsoft project plans. So it updates the project schedules, the PMO group is able to manage their projects accordingly, and at the same time, what Project Link allows you to do is it allows you to take the projects and tasks in WBS from Microsoft Project and reparent that underneath the top level project that exists within your dynamic solution. So for example, if I'm a user and I've been assigned to a task in Microsoft Project, I would record my task at the lowest level assignment task level. That time would roll up to the parent project in the WBS, and we would feed that into Microsoft Project. But then that time would also roll up into the top level parent project that exists within Dynamics. So in a combination of our Project Link tool, which syncs Journyx with Microsoft Project, and our Account Link tool, which syncs Journyx with your Dynamics solution, we're able to tie together all of the data from Microsoft Project with all of the data from your Dynamics ERP solution, with Journyx sitting in the middle, providing that one simple solution for entering all of your time and expense data. This solves a really big problem that exists where people are using Dynamics for costing and Microsoft Project for project scheduling and resource management. Those two solutions are very separated in most organizations and out of sync. This Project Link, Journyx, Account Link solution helps tie all of those together and solve that big problem. The fourth bullet, Microsoft Excel, right? Everybody uses Microsoft Excel. Whether you're using even some of the Microsoft reporting tools or some of the, doing most of your reporting out of Dynamics, everybody uses Excel a little bit for doing some additional reporting analytics. So many, many years ago, because we have so many Microsoft customers that like to use Excel, we developed a tool that we call Journyx Report Link. And in short, what Report Link allows you to do is we are using our API to connect Microsoft Excel directly with the Journyx database. So basically the way that it works is you've got a little plug-in into your Excel user interface. You point Excel to the Journyx URL, you put in a date range, you put in your login credentials because it still respects your permission levels within Journyx, but it allows you then to refresh the data. And what it does is it pulls in all the time records that fall into the date range that you've predefined into basically a big Excel worksheet. And then from there, what most customers will do is they'll insert either a pivot table or an additional worksheet to be able to create the Excel-based reports that they use on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis. So the idea behind the Microsoft Excel Journyx Report Link feature is you could build the 2 or 3, status reports that you use on a pretty regular basis as Excel templates. And instead of having to run a report, export it to Excel, massage the data every time you want to, get that report updated, you can simply click one refresh button, and Journyx Report Link will pull in all of that updated data from the Journyx database and update any pivot table or worksheet report that you've got created in that Excel format. All of our, especially our accountants, payroll coordinators, really get a lot of value out of this Excel-based plugin Report Link. So in addition to the standard reporting that's available through the web interface of Journyx, tying into this additional Microsoft tool that you're already using all the time really provides a lot of value and really allows you to do this time and expense tracking thing a little bit smarter. When we're talking about the fifth item, Microsoft Azure. So what we really mean by this is obviously you could host Journyx in an Azure cloud platform. But what we're really more talking about is being able to do single sign-on and LDAP authentication with your Active Directory. So, the big challenge that people face is, A, you don't want people to have to log into a whole bunch of different login screens when people are, logging in through some sort of, portal. You also don't want them to have to remember and maintain a bunch of different passwords. It's hard. It takes a lot of time. Everybody forgets what password they use for different applications. It also creates a big security risk with all the security and compliance issues that we're all experiencing these days. So when we're talking about single sign-on, again, allowing users to bypass the Journyx login screen when they're logging into the company portal makes it easier. The user experience is improved. They don't have to spend a bunch of time logging into a bunch of different sites. And then it also allows us, again, through Journyx LDAP, to authenticate against your Active Directory. So they can use the same login credentials that are maintained by your Active Directory store. And when it comes to being smarter about our time expense tracking solutions within Microsoft, here's what a few of our customers are saying, and partners for that matter. One of them is Sandra Dodge over at Iridium Satellite, who some of you guys actually may know by person. In their instance, we're tightly integrated with Microsoft Project Accounting. We actually, their PMO office is currently actually going live with our Project Link solution as well. So they are one of those customers that is trying to tie together their PMO group with their finance group through Project Link, Microsoft Project, Account Link, and Journyx. So they're getting a lot of value with having all of that project data being in sync from the two different types of departments within the organization. Jerry Davidson from Align Communications. These guys are actually a Dynamics Nav customer. Again, speaking to being smart about integrating with your Dynamics ERP solution bidirectionally, the reporting capabilities out of the box, but also through Report Link. Again, working smarter with the Microsoft tools that you're already using. And then I'm sure most of you guys all know Jesse Byam, used to be Intelligent, now a partner over at BDO Canada. One of his customers, we developed a real nice integration between Journyx and Dynamics GP. They were a customer that were previously using Business Portal on an older version of Dynamics GP, and when they upgraded, lost the support of Business Portal and were able to transition very nicely into Journyx, having a really integrated solution with Dynamics GP. So guys, in summary, what we mean by being smarter about tracking time and expense data is, leverage all the tools you're already using all the time, right? You guys are all Microsoft people. So when we're talking about integrating with Exchange for calendar and tasks, as suggested entries, integrating with your Dynamics ERP solution, integrating with Microsoft Project for your folks that use Microsoft Project for project scheduling, integrating with Excel for all your data analytics, and of course doing single sign-on and Active Directory authentication. Just makes this a better process. It makes it smarter. You don't have to work as hard, right? Let's leverage the things you're already using on a day-to-day basis. So if you guys have any questions, hopefully you've been able to put that through the chat session. And let me see if we've got any questions here that that I can answer for you. So the first question is, and rightfully so, because I've been talking about Dynamics, maybe sort of the old school fashion around GP and NAV, but does Journyx integrate with D365 Business Central or Financial Ops? Currently, our integrations are working with the desktop versions of Dynamics, GP, NAV, AX, in some cases SL. It is on our very near short-term roadmap to do a cloud-to-cloud integration with D365, Business Central, and Financial Ops. And so as we're learning more about that, and as more and more of the Microsoft world is moving over to the ERP in a cloud, we'll have a solution that will integrate with those two applications. Second question I had, this is more probably around expense tracking, and it is, do you support other currencies? So the short answer is yes. We've got tons of customers that are outside of the United States. So we do support multiple currencies within Journyx. So we can convert any expense data into home currencies, and before we send it over to your dynamic solution. So yeah, the short answer is we do support multiple currencies with the smarter Journyx time and expense tracking solution. And it looks like I've got one more question, and that is, do you integrate with other payroll systems? The answer to that question also is yes. Many of our Dynamics customers use Dynamics for cost accounting, but may use a solution like ADP or Paychex or some other solution for processing payroll. So in addition to integrating with your Dynamics ERP solution, we have a lot of off-the-shelf integration touch points, specifically with ADP and Paychex, but a number of additional third-party payroll reporting systems as well. Okay, well guys, that appears to be the only question that I've got in the chat box. However, most of you guys on the meeting probably know me by person. If you have additional questions, shoot me an email, give me a call. We are going to be at Summit in Phoenix in a couple weeks. You can see on the screen here, we are going to be in booth 731. We are also going to be presenting this presentation at Summit on Wednesday, I believe at 11 o'clock in the morning. But check your schedules to confirm that. Again, if you guys have additional questions, let me know. Otherwise, we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys out at Summit. Other than that, guys, thank you for your time here this afternoon, and look forward to speaking with all of you guys very soon. Thanks again.